recording. As you know, I'm old. I have to be reminded of this stuff, but we get it done. So we're on to Ustream, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. We're out there. We're talking to you. Facebook Live. It's awesome, and we're on to Facebook Live and a number of different platforms. So check out KUHSdenver.com. You're listening to 360 Performance Talk on KUHSdenver.com, and it's Friday, 11 a.m. We've got some great stuff going on. I have to pump the chest a little bit and give some props to our GM, Henry Archuleta. We are contributing massive amounts of streaming material to be number 3 in the country, behind markets like New York, which is number 1. Well, of course it's number 1. It's a few people bigger than Denver. Okay, just saying. But listen to KUHS Denver, and especially on Fridays at 11 a.m., listening to the sports performance broadcast of my 360 Performance Talk on KUHSdenver.com every Friday at 11 o'clock. And today's theme is about training camps. Why? NFL and beyond. We're going to talk about colleges, and the college camps are starting. They do all kinds of really cool things. With the teams coming in, the freshmen coming in, JUCO kids are there. They've been working out. It used to be there was voluntary and involuntary. Now it's just get out there and work your magic. Get the kids ready. And in my world, getting the players ready is from the brain-body connection, making sure that mind is directing the body to execute the same way, the same level of excellence every time the ball is snapped, every time the ball is thrown, every time the ball is hit, whether it's baseball, football, volleyball. I was at some great camp efforts the other day at the School of Mines, the Denver School of Mines. I met Jamie and Heather, the coaches at the women's volleyball team there. I want to give some shout outs to them, as well as what's going on at CSU today through Monday, actually, with the CSU women's volleyball team. They're hosting team camps up there for Colorado women's volleyball. And interestingly enough, in less than 2 weeks, actually less than 3 weeks, women's volleyball at the high school level across the state will begin in August. I think it's the second or third week of August. I'm going to say like the 13th or 14th is when things get rocking and rolling. They may actually have games. So lots of camp activities, and it's not limited to just the Denver Broncos or NFL football. Camp activities are starting all across the country, as well as all across the state of Colorado. The most notable at the press level is the Denver Broncos. As you can see behind me, we've got players checking in. Just imagine that image happening all over the country at 30-plus NFL teams across the country, making a decision and answering the question, why am I here? Why do I do camp? Why do I train? Well, there's a mindset about training that we're going to talk about, and we're going to use the NFL setup as a way to do that. But it also is a time when the players are getting something squared away in their head, their mind, about the tangible things, X's, O's, footwork, positioning, how quick do I drop, what's my first step when I'm a receiver, what's my first step backwards if I'm a D-back, what am I doing with my hand. I'll pause here for a minute and talk about linemen. Offensive linemen have one of the most difficult jobs on the planet the minute the ball is snapped, because they're having to not only be aware of the defensive player in front of them, but they have to figure out when that player responds to them, hands, feet, hips, shoulders, and addressing it as they're being attacked by that defensive lineman, or maybe 2 defensive linemen, because they're doing kind of an X and trying to move around them, and they're doing all kinds of swim moves. And different techniques against them. So that offensive lineman has to cognitively, their brain, think about something that quickly. It's really, really interesting about what's going on in the offensive line when that happens. In fact, we've got some pictures behind me. Offensive line, handwork, footwork, all at the same time. So a lot of things are going through their mind very, very quickly. I've got to give them props. So they're coming into camp, getting their mindset ready to deal with the tangibles, but it's the intangibles that drive the movement. And it's with those intangibles that many times separates the champion to the second place. Because there is no second place. It doesn't exist. Once the champions win, who thinks about second place? Nobody thinks about the second place people. Now, the second place person might think about themselves and saying, what the heck do I need to do better the next time to get it right? It's gonna be not a battle necessarily. It is on the field in those moments, but that thinking process. So that's what camps are all about. There's an answer to your why. Why do I go to camp? So as I say that, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take off my headset for just a second because I'm going to take off the first layer of reveal. This is the college reveal. All right, there's a little striptease for you. Look what we got. Ravens, people. We got the Ravens in here. There we go. And Facebook Live, it's reversed. So this, just flip this over. It's Ravens. We're talking about the Ravens today. Putting the headset back on for those of us out there in the Ustream world and international setting. Got a lot of great fans out there in the international world, as well as our Facebook Live through the Mevo and Vimeo set. So swinging into the NFL scene, we've got the Ravens out there. A little shout out to my friend and client Crockett Gilmore. He's with the Ravens and the Ravens program. He's on a journey, another level of journey for himself. The Ravens have all the talent in the world to do what they need to do to make it to the dance. And the dance I'm describing is Super Bowl. The Super Bowl is where, some might say, well, playoffs. No. If you're really in the mix in training camp and your mind is right and you're getting it set up to answer those questions about why am I here? What am I doing on the field? What have I been doing for the last few months and getting myself ready through OTAs and other types of practice routines? And even that process of relaxing. The last maybe few weeks or a month or so after OTAs, it was, make sure I'm on track, keep touching base with my family, making sure that I've got it connected so that when I go into camp, my mindset is not stuck back at home because of issues or I didn't do enough. You got it reconciled. You're moving forward and your mind is right and you are game tight. Game tight mindset right now so that you're going to put yourself out on the field in a way that's going to make you the best you can be through camp. Because now it's competing for 53, a spot on the 53-man roster for the NFL. And for college ball players, it's something you want to be obviously on the roster of the 100 plus, but then there's going to be people said, hey, and then there's going to be the active roster, the depth positions, so that you're going to try to get into that 80, 60 to 70 to 80 man roster, so that you're playing and traveling with the team at the college level. High school doesn't have to face those issues. I mean, it's varsity, JV, and then you get freshman teams and that kind of stuff. And they're into tryouts for volleyball, as I mentioned. The volleyball tryouts are starting. High school football will also be having their tryouts finished in a similar kind of scheduling fashion as what they're doing with volleyball at the women's level that starts up. So there's a lot of competition going on, answering the question in their minds about why am I here? What am I doing? It's really, for me, it's very interesting because you've got these competitive forces going on that test how dry, as some would say, how dry your powder is, and getting through to your brain, your body connection, so that your mindset is right in striving for those positions. If you've done the off-season training that you needed to do, you're ready. You've got the nutritional programs in place. You've got your physical training pieces in place. And then it's a matter of mindset. That's our first segment we talk about. So let's go beyond the mindset for a moment. Let's take a little bit of a news break and talk about today's press release from the NFL. NFL Network Inside Training Camp Live. That's where we're at. Live on location is from the NFL, is in Green Bay and the New York Giants training camp today. That's their Inside Training Camp Live, and they're highlighting certain camps. And today they're highlighting the Green Bay Packers and the New York Giants. That broadcasting started at 10 o'clock Eastern time, which would have been 8 o'clock for us in the morning here. It's still going on, and you've got coverage featuring Steve Mariucci, Jim Jones, Stacey Dales is out there for the Green Bay Packers. For the New York Giants, you've got Rhett Lewis, Michael Irvin, LaDainian Tomlinson is out there, Sean O'Hara, Kimberly Jones with the New York Giants is broadcasting the camp live. You've got scheduled interviews with those camps with Aaron Rodgers and linebacker Clay Matthews. So you've got them on the horn with others with sorry, my brain. I think about Green Bay, Aaron Rodgers, and Danica Patrick. I just, my brain floated someplace. Well, coming back to ground here, ground zero, right here in the studio at KUHS Denver. The interviews for the New York Giants, believe it or not, Eli Manning, Saquon Barkley, and then they're going to have an interview with the Detroit Lions quarterback Matthew Stafford as well. And then at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, the NFL will air on Total Access. Host Lindsey Rhodes and Scott Hansen with analyst Brian Baldinger and Daniel Jeremiah will be doing some work sharing some camp insights. And then, let's see, let me get some more times here. Okay, they're going to be having some interviews with the New England Patriots. Judy Batista is going to be doing some interviews. Taylor is going to be doing some interviews with the Los Angeles Rams. And then Tiffany Blackman with the Atlanta Falcons. The New York Jets will get some coverage through Mike Garafolo. Sorry, Garafolo. But I call it Garafolo. And that was Taylor Biscotti from the Los Angeles, up in the Los Angeles Rams. Jane Slater with the Dallas Cowboys and Steve Weich with the Oakland Raiders will be broadcasting on Inside Training Camp Live today and all day. So just check that out on the NFL Network and on NFL.com/training camp if you want to go direct. Let's see. It's a full schedule by the NFL. NFL media is doing some great things with following the camp, getting you some interviews, getting you some insights. Now, that I'm saying this at this time because we're bridging from our mindset segment into our skills segment. Those interviews and that kind of feedback will give you an insight as to what is the mindset of some of the leadership at these teams. Like, for example, with the Broncos, Casey Keenum. What's Casey's mindset going into camp? What's Von Miller's mindset going into camp? How about Chad Kelly, who's going to compete with Casey for the spot? It's not a given. That's what camp's all about. So the player's mindset needs to be focused on me. Focused on me, the player. It's all about me. A swagger, as I've talked about here before, a swagger going into camp that is self-aware. Not selfish, not being an asshole. It's being focused on you and what you can do with your skill sets. Now, remember, when I talk about skills, I'm not talking about how well he throws, footwork, speed, release time, staying within that 3-second window. It's not that. It's not, how well you move and strut your stuff on a pattern and making an accurate pattern and beating, getting spacing between you and that D-back. That's not going to happen for a few more sets. Even today, it's all about administration. Get yourself ready, get equipment ready, make sure your locker's right, make sure you're doing the things that the franchise is asking you to do. And then tomorrow and the rest going forward, before we get into their first game in the preseason, it's the skills of managing your mindset. Am I breathing properly? Am I filling my brain up with proper oxygen and really getting myself set, thinking about the vision of me positioned? I had a conversation the other day with a volleyball player about squaring her feet, making sure her footwork is good to get the first foot planted and moving to the ball. Same thing with receivers, or the same thing with high school and college football players. Are you executing what that vision is in your head, that mindset strength that you've got, that toughness and mental toughness you have? Are you resilient? That's all about mindset, being grounded and ready so that you can be mind right, game tight. That's the mindset you want to have. So when you practice those skills, it's managing expectations, being present in the moment. I mean, look at the pro level, are we talking about guys being told to put their phones away? Is that what you need to do in meetings? Because position meetings in pros is a lot like what position meetings are in college, but the college coaches have a little bit more control over the toys. Putting those things away so that we don't have to worry about Bradley Chubb or Royce Freedman, who's coming in new, or even the vets, Emmanuel Sanders, Demaryius Thomas, and Von Miller, knowing what's right and setting the example with the managing your emotions and your expectations in those meetings so that you get what you need. But in your effort, you're setting an example for the others that are coming in, the rooks that are coming in, that they may have a great set of discipline for themselves, but they're also looking to you, the vet, the person who's on the 53-man roster, so to speak, right away, but yet you still got to prove it. And then there's the injury thing. Did you do the things physically, nutritionally to get yourself in a place where you're ready to deliver? And as things start to amp up throughout camp and through the preseason games, that you're going to survive. You're going to make it through. That's why I keep emphasizing mind right, game tight. There's going to be games going on in these workouts, in these tryouts. Who's showing up early? Who's going to show up tomorrow morning early and be there when coaches are in the weight room doing their workouts? Because that's when coaches have to get it done before everybody shows up. Coaches will notice who of the vets, who of the rooks are showing up early before anybody else. You get a sweat on, you take a shower, and then get back into equipment again before you even hit the field. So you've already had one workout before the agenda even starts on the field. I think you might remember, some of you, some of the interviews I've had with people like Joel Dreesen and what he used to go through and telling rookies when you start into camp. Last year we had Joel on the air talking with us about that. Or you talk to people like Shaq Barrett, what they did as a rookie. Or even Von Miller as a rookie. Or even talking to Royce Freeman when he comes into town, when he comes into camp, where his mind is at. It's the same as where he was before. You have to make sure that you really do the right things when you come in and you set a tone with the players and the people you're going to be working with. So that being said, that's our skill set area. And making sure that when you come into camp and you're trying to answer that question for yourself about, why am I here? What am I doing? As you can see over my shoulder, skill sets with offensive linemen are built way before you even arrive at camp. You should not be focusing on the fundamentals of your game when you hit the camp. You need to be focusing on beyond the fundamentals, beyond the givens. The givens need to be there as a foundation. So the skills I'm talking about are the ones that activate those basic skills of the X's and O's and the footwork and the execution of your power and your skill, and that mental visioning of things that keeps you fresh every game, that helps you manage expectations of fatigue, manage expectations of when do I show up? My responsibility is there. I'm going to be responsible in these ways. I'm going to be active in these ways to the expectations I have of myself, which should be beyond the expectations of what coaches have of you. So when it comes to the X's and O's, it's an automatic. It's an automatic. The things that are daily occurrences to keep you at that high level of expectation are what we're talking about in my skill set area. I don't talk about X's and O's, even though I've been accused of making mention of X's and O's. Now I need to understand them. When I talk to my players, in whatever the sport is, when I talk to my players, I need to understand the expectations. Like I had a conversation with two women volleyball coaches at the School of Mines about what are your expectations. They talked to me about specific things about muscle development, quickness, creating a vision, understanding what the expectation is. If you go up and you block a ball with strong blocking technique, that you land in a stance that prepares you to then get ready to receive the ball in another way. Those are all important things, important techniques that really have nothing to do with X's and O's, but it has to do with managing expectations and being present in the moment so that you are accountable to yourself in those movements based on the vision that you create. Now, the players that are out there, the pro and college level, and maybe high school, it's tougher at the high school level, but I think it's getting more and more prevalent to understand at the high school level what the future holds. A lot of my players at the high school level have already not pre-signed. They've verbally committed to colleges in their junior and senior years. So what my role is, what my expectations are of me, is to get them prepared as quickly as we can during this last high school effort, or the last 2 seasons of their high school career, to be really ready as a college player to come in and compete and maybe even get into the varsity roster and play right off the bat. I can assure you their college coaches would love that to happen, because that means they've got 4 years of excellence with that player they recruited as a junior and senior in high school. So skill sets for me are activating the mindset into action and sustaining that, making sure it sticks. It's not kind of, sort of. Like at the rookie level, at the professional football or professional baseball or basketball or whatever it might be, it's a money deal. My work directly influences what the players are going to deliver from camp early and often and consistently at levels of performance that are excellent. They're elite performers. And if franchises can get that elite performance out of the player at an early part of their career, before they even get onto the regular schedule, that they're showing it in preseason efforts, that's going to not only get them perhaps in the 53-man roster or that 80 or 90-man roster for college football and college sports, but it's going to be a value at the high school level to know what that means, what that effort is, what skills need to come to bear to deliver your intentions, so that when we bridge into our next segment, which is the mental conditioning segment, we talk about the environment. Well, camps are an interesting environment, a very interesting environment. In fact, such an interesting environment. I'm going to do another striptease for you. I'm going to move from the Ravens to another pro team that we'll talk a little bit about. And as I do that and take this off, there's no music. We're not doing any music, no special things we're doing. We're going to take the Ravens off and move to another pro team that has some potential to challenge the Minnesota Vikings, has a chance to challenge any number of teams in that Pro Football Central Division, and it's the Chicago Bears. I don't know if you've been noticing, but the Chicago Bears have wrapped their arms around some media stuff. They've been getting their general manager into the social media podcasting. I know in recent discussions with the Broncos, John Elway is a podcaster. I'm hoping that takes on a fan-based interest, because John Elway is he's got a coach's mindset. And I think people like Gary Kubiak and the head coaches that he has, and all the coaches he has, know that about him. And I'd like to see more of that. But I'm going to focus on the Chicago Bears right now for just a moment. Their camps, they varied over the years. They varied where they have them. But they've got some great facilities out there. There's no excuse about their environments are conducive to motivating and arousing great performance out of everybody from the rooks to the vets that are more than likely going to be on the 53-man roster throughout camp. and out into the regular season. The same thing is true with the Broncos. They've got a great environment. I mean, they put $43 million into the facilities over and above what was already put into the new indoor facilities they have, and then the outdoor stuff that's around the stadium, the offices, and the indoor facilities. They've got some great stuff. So the $43 million includes things like improved seating in the auditorium for players, the technology that they put into that setup there, as well as changes and modifications to the arena itself at the football stadium, at the field. I'm just going to call it Bronco Field because I'm not sure who's got their name on it right now. I don't remember, actually, if there isn't as a namer on the stadium. But that being said, the Chicago Bears are no different than most franchises in the NFL in their commitment to excellence. One of the things that I recommend to players as well as franchise leadership, both coaches and administration, is that the environment is not overlooked when you're looking to make a connection between the players on the team. Things like, seats for 300-pound linemen. These are not small chairs in these auditoriums. And they should be comfortable because you're asking them to be in position meetings, you're asking them to be in all team meetings to focus their attention. With the use of technology, and I don't know a player I've talked to in professional football, and pretty much any professional sport I talked to, technology is a given. They use it. I mean, whether it's an iPad or some kind of tablet with Windows, the Windows tablets that are out there, as well as the iPads, they're all being utilized in some way. That is a communication tool. A communication tool about what you expect of them before they arrive at the environment. So nobody has any excuses about delivering messages and promoting a good mental condition in the environment you ask them to perform in. So camp is not new for the vets. Everybody shows up. It's really not new for the rooks either, because they've gone to camps at the college level, and so it's not new, but it is new because it's different faces. The expectations within that environment that are set up by the mindset and the skills to really arouse those thoughts into action within those environments are going to be new to a lot of people. And it's going to fill the room, the energy, the feeling of the energy. It's almost like game situations where you're getting ready to go to the stadium to participate and be involved. So you've got to be aware at the organizational level, what are we putting in those rooms? Does it mean anything to these players and the coaches? Could we put things of meaning that is part of the vocabulary behind the program? It's essential that there's a connection. The less the connection is there, you have lots of examples of why things aren't quite gelling when the regular season shows up. I mean, granted, we have the start of training camp. We're going to eventually evolve training camp into a closed session as pregame season goes on, and fans are not going to be allowed in as we get closer and closer to regular season. So there's a progression there. Well, in that progression, are we doing things in our environment to create a mental condition that maximizes elite performance in every single individual as the evolution of the 53-man roster starts to show up? Everybody has different ways they get aroused and stimulated to get ready for a game. Is the environment, is the operations of the organization being mindful of that? In high school, for example, remember the banners that cheerleaders brought out? The big paper banners. And now we've got on YouTube, these films of they didn't break the banner and somebody bounces off the banner. Maybe it's a cheerleader that went out through and couldn't quite break the paper. But those are just funny stories. But those are things that have slogans on them, images on them about the fighting Jaguars or whatever. Let's beat the Rams or whatever. And they do some crazy little saying on there. Those are all things that we grew up with that were many times not thought about. Well, as we raise our level of expectation, and we ask these players and coaches to align themselves and be accountable for these messages, those messages become important. What you say and the words you use to say them mean something. Does that sound familiar in the political world? Yeah. Well, it has merit, and it's seen in the athletic world. When you're competing at a high level, you want the mental condition within the environment you're asking them to perform in to be at the highest level possible. It's at the elite level. I'm sorry, I misquoted earlier. It's not 43 million. It was 45 million. $45 million the Broncos put in to do some renovation within the team rooms and the auditorium at Dove Valley to improve the comfort level, improve the chances of having systems and structure within that environment so that the messages, the words we chose, get amped and really are exciting. As exciting as a block on a men's volleyball team at Olympic competition or college competition, as you see behind me, the UCLA Long Beach State game. It doesn't matter. The environment needs to be considered for mental conditioning. In training camp, if you're looking for an answer about why I'm here, maybe it's because of the environment. The people you see, the colors you see, the shapes, the images, the messages you see. And at the pro and college level, they're surrounded by it. Just take a look at jerseys these days in any competitive sport, college and pro in particular. And high schools are getting more and more into this. The larger the high schools, well, it actually doesn't matter how large they are. Schools of any size are understanding the relevancy of the message in the environment to really get those players on the court, on the field, ready to rock. Music is becoming a big piece of it. The announcer is becoming a big piece of it. Look at the scores table now. They've got the revolving messages. Players see that stuff. They watch that stuff. There are players, if coaches are really examining who their players are, they're learning about what gets these players not only aroused but distracted, making sure that movement at a certain time doesn't happen. Scoreboards don't revolve on a serve in a volleyball match. Scoreboards don't revolve as a team is coming down at a key moment at halftime to score a bucket to go up by one and have the things revolve. It would be bad if cheerleaders started to cheer or the band started queuing up at the wrong time. These are all factors that are now in our modern day of sport event management, coordinating those administrative and operational things with the team, making sure that you are aware of what's going on, that the mental condition is right for everybody in that environment. We have distractions in the professional football area of customized shoes at different points of the season so that we can promote our support of charities. It's not a bad thing, unless it's a distraction to the player wearing the shoes prior to the game and how aroused they got about supporting a charity and the youngsters and the hospitals and the pain and suffering they're going through. And it sticks with them and stays with them in the game. Now, for some, that could be a motivator. For others, it might be a distraction. Not in the fact that they supported that young person that's in pain in a hospital bed, but that they were aware of it within hours before the game, instead of waiting and doing it the day before, or mentioning it briefly and then doing something of substance later on. These are all things that need to be considered. As I say that, we watch behind me the Aqib Talib scenario and the attitude and mindset that was not in control, that was not using skills to manage the expectations, so that in that environment, the mental conditioning of Aqib Talib wasn't exactly at the right level it needed to be to execute a level of excellence he should. Too often on the field, those kind of lack of attention to the intangibles, as I mentioned earlier, there's the tangible stuff that I need to know about, but I don't need to know them. I just pay attention to them as an influence to the intangibles. Setting up your mindset so that you use the skills to make sure that they're at their best level of understanding. You have a great clear image of what you need to do so that when you get in these environments, your mental condition is the most optimal it needs to be, so that when you take the field, as the Broncos have done in the past with the Peyton Mannings of the world and the Demaryius Thomases and Emmanuel Sanders of the world, as well as Von Miller and Shaq Barrett and others. Everything's right. You just feel it. You know, for those of you who've been in it, Super Bowl 50, when you were there and you were in it, you felt it. You could feel it on the field. Just like the same thing happens on an opposite turn of that, the environment, the mental condition around the environment when the Seattle Seahawks did what they did to the Broncos and Peyton Manning, everybody felt it. When I've talked to players, and Joel Dreesen as one of them that comes to mind, about what did the locker room feel like at halftime after that first half in that game. That environment was not filled with energy that was well understood, that skills were applied to arouse people with a mindset and a vision that they knew they could take control of. There was some confusion and there was some hesitation. Not so in Super Bowl 50. Not so in Super Bowl 50. So as we review the training camp question I posed at the beginning of the show, why do you go? Why training camp? Well, because it's important to get yourself set, to put it all together before you get into the regular season and when it counts. Going through that effort to make sure that you are aware and ready about who you are, why you are here and present, and that everybody you look at, they see it in your eyes. They see your setup of your mindset before you got there, and that you're using skills like breathing, being emotionally present, and managing your expectations that others have of you. Having their back, as players would say, is an example of managing expectations. Somebody expects me to reach out for that first down marker when I've got 2 tacklers on me, because that's what the play was called for, and they trust me to get that done. Or just like at the net during volleyball, that you are in a right position with your hands or your feet, your hips, and your shoulders to go up with the teammate and get a solid block. And not just a solid block, but you're directing it to a place because you have a vision of what that means, because you've rolled it through your head time and time again. So that the performance result, which is our next segment of our show, the performance result is not about the win of the match or the game. It's about that moment. The performance result is that not only did I get everything connected in that positioning for the block, but when I blocked it, I also had the forethought and the mindset to mentally be strong enough to direct the ball where I wanted it to go. Or in the football example, that when that out pattern, that short out, that flare was thrown to you for the 3 yards, and the other team knew it was coming, they know it's coming, you are not going to be denied. You are going to make the play. You are going to make the play. And when it gets to a Super Bowl effort, you know that both teams have their mindset, their skills, and their mental conditioning in that moment, in those moments, to produce performance results like tip a pass off your hands, stay focused on it, catch it, and sustain control of the ball at the end of that play and make it a catch. It's a determined catch. Those are the performance results I'm talking about. And that's why you go to training camp. That's why training camp is so important. That you can do those things without fear of retribution in training camp and get it done. And continue to have another chance to get it done. Many times coaches make a decision about who makes a roster or who doesn't get cut based on effort. Continuously coming back. Your resolve. In performance results, that's where resiliency really comes up for me. That's where things happen in a way that you know that's a player. And yeah, they may not have made a lot of numbers. The stats didn't show well in the preseason workouts and the games, but consistently improved. The energy was there every time out, time in and time out. That's where performance results show themselves in my world. I'm not talking about media. I'm not talking about many fans that look at wins, that look at total columns in certain categories of statistics. You know, those are important as a measurement, but they're not important in my world in training high-performance individuals to be their best time in and time out. That's why I say, mind right, game tight. If the mind ain't right, the game is loose. And yeah, you might have some success because you're an elite athlete and you're physically well preserved and you deliver some great stuff, but you're not going to consistently give yourself and the team the kinds of performance results in those chunks that really add up to championship behavior and championship results. We need to make sure that we understand that when you go to training camp. Training camp is a place for you to excel in growing, in getting better, and putting together all of that work you did pre-camp. The staying true to the meals that you ate, staying in the nutritional plan, staying true to being there on time to work to work with people like myself. There's a horse in me somewhere. I can't seem to quite get it out. To work with people like myself, that you stay focused on those commitments and you're professional in your attendance. And I expect that from high school all the way up to the pros. Because if you learned it as a high schooler and you're delivering that kind of effort as a high school athlete to become an elite performer, it's going to stick with you. And you're going to be telling me what the expectations are and how you want me to be accountable. I love that. And no matter how much of a performance result you've had in every level of your output, there's always more you can deliver. I'm the guy who pokes the tiger. I'm the guy who makes sure that when I poke the tiger, I know how to dodge the paw or dodge the bite or the striking out to me, because that's what they want me to do, whether you're a high school player or a pro player. All right, well, that was my break, my little infomercial for 360mindset.com. If you need some of that help, if you need somebody to poke you as the tiger to make you your best and hold you accountable to elite behavior that you want, that's me. Check me out at 360mindset.com. You're listening to 360 Performance Talk on KUHSdenver.com. Love being here. Love sharing with you, especially when we can share moments like Super Bowl 50, and which is the culmination of training camp. That is a reason you want to look forward to. And there was a play there with Von Miller stripping the ball out of the hands of that quarterback for the Panthers. Both are outstanding players. But Von Miller, he's a person I know with personal experience that sticks with process. That's what the performance results category that we're into now in our segment is about. It's about process. It's not about the trophy or the ring or the ribbon or the win, the W at the end of the game. It's about the steps you take, the responsibilities you align yourself with in every moment of the contest, whether the contest is training camp or it's Super Bowl 50. And Von Miller was there for that. There's no question about it. Now, who's going to be next to Von Miller in training camp to challenge Von Miller? If you know anything about players like Von Miller, they're looking at you like this. Bring it. Bring it. Yeah, what do you got? Show me. Show me what you got. Because that's what it's all about. That's how you get better in those little moments and defining the process of your performance result. It's a hand technique, a footwork technique if you're an offensive lineman. You know, it's a combination of techniques as a defensive lineman to beat the best offensive lineman across the way. Or if you're a receiver, it's give me the best D-back you got, people. Come on, bring it. If you're a rook, you should be doing that if you want to be known for taking a starter position away. And the starter you took it away from will respect and honor you if they're any kind of pro at all, because you did your best to get it and to figure it out and to be present. That would be my challenge to a Chad Kelly. We're looking across or in the setup with Case Keenum. There's a competition right there. And they're going to honor each other because they have to. And if one is a backup to the other, they're going to be in the game situation processing through what are the steps, what are the words I have to say, the signals I have to give, the conversation I have between sets about what you could do differently. And Keenum or Chad will accept that from them. And they're going to learn that dynamic in camp. Another reason for you to train hard in camp. Another reason for you as a youngster in high school to ask freshmen to bring their best, because they will be better as a sophomore and a junior because of you when you've graduated and gone on to your college scholarship at another school. That's the cycle. That's what coaches want to have happen. But guess what? It's easier said than done. I know it from being a coach. It's tough. You know, I want that in my culture of the team that we have. And I want it to sustain. As I also want those individuals that are cut or reduced to a lower position on the roster to be a great fan when they're not playing in the varsity contest. They're in the stands or they're in practice challenging even harder and further. They're asking questions of me as a coach. Coach, what can I do better? What can I do differently to get my mind right so I'm game tight? Those are performance result things because they're process. Let me give you a little point here for the NFL and college. Well, college and high school as well. High school doesn't have lockers assigned to them as much as college and pros do. I ask my players to, when they go to their locker for the first time, maybe it's when they get assigned it. In the pros, you may already have one. It may not change. But whatever that locker is, put items in that locker that remind you of the 4 segments of my show. Put examples of mindset cues, words, phrases, pictures that cue you up to a mindset, a vision of what you want to accomplish. Now, those pictures and symbols and images may change from week to week. Some may be constant. I know there's a lot of family kind of components in there that are constants. There's also images. I've got a couple of UW, University of Washington athletes that I have a sheet that has animals on there that represent certain aspects of their behavior, that they're reminders for them. Well, that should be a constant. You know, great grizzly bear, jaguar, eagles, rhinoceros, you know, that whatever it takes. But those are things that they should subscribe to that makes them think about, who am I? Why am I here? And those are part of the connection of mindset, skill, and mental conditioning, so that when they leave that locker, they've seen these images that remind them of the process points in their performance results that they want to accomplish. Because the ultimate statement, the mantra that I want them to say to themselves every day, it's all about me. That's the mantra. I'll send that to them in text. I'll go, it's all about ... And I expect them to fill that in, because that's what gets them focused on being their best. But being it in a self-aware way, not in a selfish way, so that when they move from that locker that's now adorned with the things that remind them of what and who they are, that reminds them of the answers to the question I asked at the beginning of the show. Why are you here? What are you doing? Well, I'm going to do the last thing here in the segment. We got a few more minutes. Taking off the headset, talking to you about taking the Bears off and ending the show with the Broncos and seeing if 3 years ago they can repeat the mindset that is necessary with the skills that holds them accountable, manages their emotions, to then bridge them into, when they go to these environments, some they know about, some they may have been to before, but they change them every once in a while, that their mental condition in that environment is properly aroused so that the visions can become clear, they can act on them, they can utilize the skills. Even during the game, I ask my players to breathe. The first muscle in your body that takes oxygen is your brain. That makes sense, right? Because you got to think to do. It's not what Nike says, just do it. You got to think first before you can get the do. I didn't mean the soda pop, okay? I mean actions. Action steps to make it happen. So that when you get into the moment, the performance results you're looking for connect immediately without even thinking. That's process. Michael Johnson, Olympic gold medalist. He practices process. He practices the vision of how his fingers are together and what his foot feels like, and he strikes the ground. He does it over and over and over again, because that process and the mental condition and the skills and the mindset that goes into all of that delivers a sub 40-second run. He doesn't look for the strive for that as a goal. He strives for the processes that add up to getting that. That's what training camp's all about. That's why you want to do it. You want to make sure you understand what are literally and figuratively the steps you need to take to make it happen. Process results. Chunking, as educators would say. I'm chunking the lesson up so they're in manageable pieces. So that by the time you get to the contest where you're competing against people that aren't in your training camp, because it's the competition, it's the team you're going to go against, you're ready. You're ready to rock. I was up at University of Northern Colorado, and I went outside the gymnasium, which one exit you can look at the practice field for football. Now, at this point, I knew, because I had talked to some of the coaches that I know up there, that the coaches weren't there. And yet, there were players out on the practice field with ladders, with cones, with footballs, independently doing what it takes. Now, as I watched them, I have my questions about whether or not what they were doing really fit them. It was routine. I mean, it's stuff they were taught, the ladders, the different routines around the cones, the L cones, the 3-cone drills, 4-cone drills, that kind of stuff, flipping the ball to each other. And that's all well and good. But I watch drills to see who's just doing the drills and who is actually committing themselves to a process that's going to make them better. Because every one of those receivers is different. They all have different ways they catch the ball. They all have different ways where they want the ball to be. So one of the things I didn't see was communication amongst the individuals that altered, hey, throw me the ball here, throw me the ball here. Put it in places I need to have it put so that I can work myself on things that I didn't do well last season. So have it fit into my mindset of vision so I can work the skills of my breathing technique in a way I can catch it. One of the things I tell receivers is breathe in before you catch it and breathe out as you catch it. And the reason that is when you breathe in, the muscles get ready to receive. You catch it, you bring it in, exhale, and then you're soft and supple, and yet you're ready for the hit. If the hit doesn't come, you breathe in again and you exhale as you're plowing your feet through, and you're in through the nose, out through the mouth. That fits the physiology of your body, and it fits the routine of catching solid with soft hands but strong body. You're an individual altering that. So that's where performance results and process needs to be uniquely adjusted for you. Man, I'm excited. It's starting. Football is starting. Not that it hadn't started a long time ago when you're looking at athletes getting ready for this kind of intensity and this kind of competition. 3 years ago, gentlemen, and Broncos organization, what are we doing to make sure that the expectations are set and that those expectations are clearly understood for those who want to be held accountable? You know there's players on that team that want to be held accountable. And they know what the end result is when they are. And everything fits. And they're all connected. There's not any squabbling. There's an understanding between quarterback and receiver and running back and line. Defensive ends, linebackers, D-backs. They know. And some of them know without even having to say anything. They move. They shake a hand. They nod a head. They know. But unless you bring everybody else into that, all the way up into the administration and coaches, it's not truly connected. Because then when you're challenged, it's resolute. It sticks. It doesn't go away very quickly. And you know, for those of you who are on the championship team in Super Bowl 50, you know what it feels like. You also know what it feels like in the last 2 years when it wasn't a fit. And what you need to do, say, and feel to connect it. I love being a part of the connections because that's what I do. The process is real. Just like it's real here at KUHSdenver.com. Number 3 in the country for streaming. You got to be part of it. I want you to be part of it. KUHS Denver, you're listening to 360 Performance Talk. I'm your host, Lowell Whiteman. We are on Facebook Live, Ustream, and it's getting ported out to Vimeo. It's getting ported out to YouTube, and any platform we can find, because the messages are good, they're real, they're exciting. I'm glad to be here. We're wrapping up our show for today. I got permission to go a couple minutes longer, like I need that. I'll do that without even being asked to. But it's fun to be here. We're going to say goodbye in just a minute. We're going to start up some tunes. But as I do that, I want to make sure I give a shout out to all the great folks at the Denver Broncos. I want to say thank you to Darren O'Donnell. I had a chance to meet him. Go Rams, Darren. And to Seth at the Broncos camp there today. I know he's busy. He's very, very busy doing the media thing. Also want to say a shout out to Paul Kirk up at CSU. It's happening. The camp is happening. Go Rams! Getting ready for the showdown on August 25th, I believe. It's just great to be here. I'm having such a great time. So let's give you some music as we bow out for today. And I'm going to say goodbye to my Facebook friends out there on my Facebook link. Have a great one. Ending that, and as we end the Facebook feed for KUHSdenver.com, take a listen to Monica. Before You Walk Out of My Life. There we go. And here you are. Ustream, thanks for being with me. We'll be shutting us down here.